Hello, friends. Welcome to the Show to Be Named Later podcast. I'm Jonny Voss, joined by our good friend Noah Stoerzinger down in the city of Fountains, Kansas City, Missouri. Did you know that that's obviously the nickname of Kansas City?
It is. There's some really nice fountains down here. Actually, you go downtown, you can go find some. And obviously Kauffman Stadium. I mean, take a look at Kauffman with those nice fountains. So
was that the reason? City. Was that the reason they put the fountains in? I would imagine.
I would assume so. I think you embrace it. Like if they build a new stadium too, because it's been the talks. Like they gotta have some nice fountains in there. That's kind of been the staple here.
Right.
So.
But now, did you know that Kansas City actually has 3 nicknames? Do you know what the other 2 are?
I don't know. I don't know. What are they? Do you know?
Well, the Heart of America, which, okay, that's fine. But then this one, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to take the Paris of the Plains. Now, I've been to Kansas City several times. I'm not thinking Paris. Then, however, and maybe in Tom Brenneman's world, maybe, Paris and Kansas City, maybe. I just don't think Paris when I think Kansas City.
Not at all, especially, well, I won't go there, but nope, not at all.
All right. Well, we got a big show tonight. It is Monday the 18th at the time of recording. So we got some good stuff to cover, some bad stuff to cover, and maybe some ugly stuff to cover. So I want to shift first with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I want to tell you this, Noah. You know what grinds my gears? So we had a little hiccup down in New Orleans. That's fine. We said 3 losses we were looking at in the next 11, right?
Yep.
So I watched the Dallas game, and I know that you commented about Donich, and I really like his game too. He's an incredible basketball player. He kind of a bitch too, though. He kind of like Karl Anthony Towns. If he would just shut up, I would like watching his game because it's so entertaining. Right?
Yeah. Doncic is like, there are times when like you were watching that game and he'll make a shot and you're just like, what do you do? Like you can't do anything. Comparing to Towns a little bit, Towns has been a little different this year. I'm not gonna lie.
I agree.
Towns has been nice, man. And Doncic is tough. I don't know where
great ball player, but I wish he'd shut his mouth. But the point I was making, so okay, it didn't look good right off the bat in that game. But like the Wolves have been doing all season, fourth quarter comes around and it's lights out time. Okay. And so watching that game, well, we won by 19 points that night, right? So I get up at 5:30 every morning. And I got up early, a half hour early at 5, because I couldn't wait to watch SportsCenter and have them say something about a 19-point victory in Reunion. No, they don't play in Reunion, in Dallas, Texas. And guess what? When they got to the Wolves-Dallas game, all they talked about was Donich and the Dallas Mavericks. And then at the end, they showed one big jelly 3-pointer and said, oh, by the way, the Wolves won by 19. Didn't talk once about the Timberwolves. And, it's why I stopped watching SportsCenter. Pretty much at ESPN in general, unless there's a game on. I lived through the era where they actually gave you highlights from games on both sides and covered the whole game. And to me, it was like CNN also had a similar show at that time going up right up against SportsCenter. That was, I guess, when CNN actually didn't report opinions. They just reported actual news. And you know what? I was so sick to my stomach by the end of the 2-minute deal that they had on the Wolves-Mavericks game. And they gave us, once again, no credit. And Naz Reid had a breakout game that night. Not one word about him. Oh, by the way, he hit a 3-pointer, even though he had 5 that night?
He fully broke the Dallas Mavericks that night. Absolutely broke them and the crowd. But it's forever been the thing, right? No, national media does not talk about the Wolves. They don't talk really any Minnesota sports in general, unless it's maybe the Vikings. I think you talk more about the Vikings, but it's forever been a thing. I don't know why. It's people can say we're a small market. We're a medium market, and we got all 4 major sports teams. This should be
six. No,
okay. This should
and a
be
major, somewhat university.
this should be a town of sports that you talk about, especially when now at the time of recording we're the second best team in the NBA. But when would you have thought that the Wolves would be the number 1 team in the NBA, beating the Dallas Mavericks by 19 points, beating all of the OKC Thunder, the Boston Celtics, beating these teams by wide margins with a good team? Why are you not talking about it? I don't get it. That's why I love why sports media has expanded to where there are other places that will talk about it and you can kind of get your Minnesota fix.
Right.
But it's frustrating. But Naz Reid, man,
I'll tell you, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like I said before,
awesome.
Dude, Jim, I think it was Michael Grady or Jim Peters. I can't remember. One of the two where we're talking about, like, there was a point in the game in the third quarter, which the Wolves have been an amazing third quarter team this year. There was a point where he broke them. He absolutely broke this team. None of their possessions were going well. And every time every time Naz Reid got the ball, the entire crowd, you just heard this groan in the crowd, which for a bench guy, getting a groan out of the whole crowd whenever he touches the ball is something special.
Because you don't expect it from him, big jelly, but to me, he's not big at all compared to your average big man in the NBA, but he does things. And I know that we're in a world now where the big man does his game's a little bit different, but every time he does something amazing, I'm just like, there's no way. And then you go, oh yeah, he did that before. And he's really not missing much these days at all.
No, he had a stretch where he couldn't, the ball would not go through the net for maybe 2 games from 3, but comes out in Dallas, kills it, comes out when we played Indiana, killed it. This guy, I mean, he mentioned he played a lot with guards growing up, so he kind of had to do things that guards had to do, or he wanted to be kind of like a guard. And I mean, you see some of it. This guy can dribble the ball. He can handle pretty well.
I love his spin move.
The spin move is an absolute.
It's like the one-hander off the backboard, and it always goes right in. It's amazing.
He makes shots that it's like Luka. Watching Luka, you're like, all right, well, I don't know how that went in, man. Like, he is an absolute beast of a bench presence. It's a shame he probably will not be in contention for 6th man of the year, because that's just not, they typically go with a guard. But man, this guy is just valuable.
I've said it before, man. When he gets his feet set behind the 3-point arc, it's money, dude. Like, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it's going in.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't even look always like they're on balance. But like I say, all he's got to do is get his 2 feet set on the floor, and it's money.
The fact that we have it's almost like you look at, like, he's got to be up there for one of the better big man shooters, and to have 2 on your team is kind of deadly, man.
Right. Funny story, or at least for me, I just loved hearing this. So on Friday night, I went, my buddy's band, the Big Woo, was playing the main stage at First Avenue. And I saw some friends that I haven't seen in a while, and I couldn't believe it because they were from different walks of life. So my good friend, Andy Benedict, his daughter is, I believe, a freshman at Edison High School. So 9th grader. And Andy was like, not only people on her team or whatever are talking about Naz Reid, he's like, there are people that got signs in my neighborhood, like up in their like huge bed sheets that they've written on for Naz Reid. And he's like, no, they're like down the block, they're everywhere. And I'm like, really? No kidding. So then I see Marty, and his kids, I believe, are in the St. Louis Park District. And he said, Johnny, my middle schooler, it's the girls, it's the boys, everybody is talking about Naz Reid. And we talked about this cult status or whatever, but when the youngsters are talking about him, that makes you, I had no idea that people are putting signs up in their yards, and it's really taken off. And we covered this last week. Like, the guy took a cut and pay basically to still be here in Minnesota. And I guess that's just one of those diamonds in the rough that you just keep polishing and polishing.
This guy, you wonder, like, you look at Naz Reid, and obviously he's doing something really special. And these guys, they come about once or twice to teams, and I just feel like Naz is getting more attention than you would have thought. But this guy, like, maybe it's just how he came up through the system, right? I mean, undrafted out of LSU, gets the Gupta special, they call it, with the 4-year minimum deal.
Yeah.
And just worked and worked and worked. And man, for him to take a pay cut and stay here, you don't hear that very often with Minnesota athletes. And that's why I think it's special. And you see this team gelling, and he's a big part of it. And man, they got signs out on random streets as just honk if you love Naz Reid.
Right.
I mean, the Twitter team, only like when Naz Reid will do something, they'll just put a tweet out, just says Naz Reid. Just that's it. Just Naz Reid. And that's all they do now. And that's become a thing. And I'm thinking the show to be named later is going to make a bumper sticker or something that says honk if you love Naz Reid. And we're going to get them out there. Something like that, because we're jumping on the train. We've been on the train, but the train's getting larger.
Right. Now, okay, so let me ask you a question. So as the year goes on, and people are going to stop saying, well, like, this was a fluke, he just did this one. I mean, this is pretty consistently that he's doing this on a nightly basis. Does it get to a point where he becomes that much of a factor that teams are going to start, like, hardly ever you hear teams going, hey, we got to really watch the guy that comes off the bench, and we got to make a game plan for that guy. But how long before teams start saying we have to watch out for Big Jelly, and will that affect his game, do you think, in the future?
It's hard to tell, because I think when you look at this roster up and down, and the big reason why we've won 19 games so far this season already at this point is there are so many weapons on this team that it's hard to game plan for multiple guys. Like, you could game plan for Ant, and then Cat will drop 40 on you. You can game plan for all these different guys. And sure, you can game plan for Naz Reid, but guess who's also coming out the bench? I mean, you still got Nikhil, Troy Brown. Like, these guys can hurt you in ways that if you don't plan for it, it's going to be tough. So I don't know if it'll hurt Naz's game as much, just because he's got like 5 tools in the bag that he can throw out at any time. And he's got so many complementary pieces around him that I think it just helps his game regardless of what they're doing.
Now, I'll say this. Now, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the podcast. I think we've had this conversation, but the Jonny Voss rule is that you always have to hate at least 3 guys on your team. Okay, and it's just been, and being a Wolves fan since the 80s, that hasn't been hard at all. Like, usually the Jonny Voss rule goes above and beyond 3 guys. For I'm going to say, for a few years, Karl-Anthony Towns has been one of those guys in the 3 that I care not to like. And I got to say, he is slowly making a case for he can't be on that list any longer. The 40 and 12 the other night, pretty impressive.
Oh yeah. And now I know we just talked about, I think, MVP list with Rudy and everything. Cat just hit number 10 on that list of MVP tracker, man. He started the year really slow. But for years, I mean, obviously when we talk, we obviously talk about the talking to the refs and the attitude on the floor, and kind of just letting your game speak for itself. And man, he's been doing that this year. Like, it's very rare that he's screaming at refs anymore.
Yep.
I mean, knock on wood, I guess. We got a game today. We'll see, and it could change. But man, he's been coming in and never let the whole Anthony Edwards thing, I think, get in his head of, no, I'm going to get
team is it?
Yeah, right. like, and that was a conversation for almost 3 years now. It's been, and it's pretty consensusly like, this is Ant's team, but it's people are like, why does it have to be? They're both just getting their own and letting it flow seamlessly. And that's what I think I'm so proud with Cat, is he's just he's come in and done exactly what we need him to do, and it's not the star player
Yep.
mentality of I need to
And,
get 40 every game.
and that I think is tougher. What you hit upon is tougher than most people are going to give Cat credit for, because you're talking about a dude that's got a huge ego. Like by winning the 3-point shootout, thinks that automatically makes him one of the best players of all time in the NBA.
Makes a pretty good shooter, though.
Yeah, but that's a competition. That's not anyways. Okay, so that brings me to your boy Edwards, because the Dallas game he struggled quite a bit, and then in the Indiana game, he dropped 39, I believe. So you got two, right? He had 39 against
37.
37. I'm sorry. So you're talking almost 70 points or 80 points between two guys. Do you think that Edwards now is back on track? And what do you think? Because we're gonna talk about Anthony Edwards a little farther down the road, I think. But do you think that he's maybe, as far as health concerns and whatnot, that he is back? Because I'll tell you, against New Orleans, Dallas didn't look. Not New Orleans, but against Dallas, I was like, oh man, he's forcing a lot, and he doesn't look like he's in rhythm. And I wonder if this is going to be a lingering thing that we're going to have to deal with. But he looked good against Indiana. Of course, that was a home game. But yeah, what do you think? You think he's back to the old Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, I think he's back. I mean, he's obviously. I think what everyone forgets with Ant is the guy is 20, 21, 22. Like he's younger than I am, which is
right.
Nuts to me.
We'll get into that a little later. Yeah.
So yeah, he's got to go through some things, and yeah, I think it was just kind of getting the rust off. When you sit for a couple days, I think it actually it's a lot tougher than you think. I think getting back into a rhythm, especially at the highest level, and he did a good job. I think he started the Pacer game kind of slow too, but I believe what he mentioned in his interview was Mike Conley came and just told him, "Hey man, just keep shooting. If you gotta, I'll take away some shots. I'll take some shots away. If you gotta keep shooting, I'll give it to you," because the whole team knows like that guy can give you 37 every night if you just let him get going. And I think he found it. I think it was a mix of just rust, maybe a little bit of stuff in the head, but also some veteran leadership, right, from Mike Conley. Just
I love that guy. I love that guy, and like it, man, that trade has paid dividends already. Now, my next question with the Wolves for you is: should we be concerned? Because I noticed in the last two games that Rudy Gobert's numbers have dropped, both rebounds and points. And I noticed that, when he's been playing out of his head is when Anthony Edwards was not around. And so now Edwards is back, and now his numbers are going down a little bit. I'm not going to say that his defensive game is any different. But should we be concerned about that? Because we were talking MVP just last week. In the last two games, I think, he barely got in double figures points wise, and he wasn't grabbing 20 boards either.
No, I think you have to realize, first of all, what is your realistic expectation for what you're getting out of Rudy Gobert every game? Is it what he was? Now, it'd be great if he's going to give you those numbers every day. He's probably not. Like you said, his defensive game has not taken a break, and that's really why he's there now. The numbers have gone down a little bit, and really, the last two games it was foul issues. I mean, the guy got in foul trouble. It happens a couple games. I mean, we'll see what happens tonight in Miami. That'll be a tough one with Bam Adebayo, who's also pretty good. But he was still really good when Anthony Edwards was still playing too. So I don't know if it could have just been a couple games. We'll see, and it can be a conversation for another time if that changes. But I don't think it's time to worry quite yet.
Well, now you asked me what my expectations on any given night are. I honestly don't know with Rudy Gobert, because he's already done more than I thought he was going to do all year. Whether that's offensively or certainly defensively, I didn't think that he was going to be in the category of Defensive Player of the Year again. But so I mean, I really don't know. And the other point that you made was there are so many weapons on this team that I don't even think of Rudy Gobert as a number 1, 2, or 3 choice as far as scoring. You know what I mean? They do the lob dunk to him quite a bit, which is effective. But in crunch time, you're not thinking of him taking the last shot or even in the last 6 minutes of the game if it's close. You know what I mean? Like if you can get him inside, that's fine. But however, you saw the jump shot from about 20 feet out the other night, right? Like pulling everything. So I mean, like I say, I don't know. What are your expectations for him on any given night? Because I don't. I want 10 and 10, and then I guess I'll be happy because that's who I thought he always was. But then when he started exceeding that, you're like, well, let's see what else he can do. I just never know from night to night.
Right. And I think 10 rebounds is, for me, like Gobert should be getting 10 boards a game easy. He should.
Right.
But what I expect from him is to lead the defense, and that's why he's there. The blocks are one thing, and we can look at numbers all we want, but you do have to. I mean, you can watch teams when they drive in, man. They get scared. They get scared when Gobert is there. It's just the physical presence of him being there that just destroys teams' offensive runs. It destroys their momentum. It destroys their chemistry. It just the presence of him is one thing. He's there to clean up possessions at the end of the day on the offensive game. Some putback dunks and everything is great. I don't necessarily think we need to run plays for him. I like pick and roll just to kind of break down some defensive schemes. The lob has been nice at times, but you're really not running plays to get him a bucket necessarily, unless there's some mismatches, whatever. But so I guess really what I'm expecting is give me 10 boards. Blocks is one thing, but like if I can see your defensive efficiency still be at the top of the league, like that's exactly what I'm expecting out of a guy who we're paying $40+ million for.
Yeah, so. Right. Yeah, yep. So we have 4 games this week, I believe, and they're not gimmies by any stretch.
None of them are.
What's that?
None of these games that
you're at Miami, at Philly, the Lakers at home, and then I believe on Saturday you're at Sacramento. Now, and newsflash, folks, I hate to be a spoiler alert. You won't see this by the time they play anyways. I believe Jimmy Butler, and I'm not going to call him Jimmy Buckets anymore. Jimmy Butler is playing this evening because it's a home game if he's playing the Wolves, so I guess he'll be safe. There was a time last year during the playoffs that other than Jokic, I was like, holy cow, Jimmy Butler is the best player in the playoffs right now. But it's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't even want to talk about Jimmy Butler because I think as talented as he is, boy, it would have been great if we could have utilized that talent. But I don't know if I would want a guy like that on my team any longer. And it wasn't just the Timberwolves that he got tired of playing for and then just demanded to get out of there. There's 3 other cities that he was just like, nope. And so in anybody who I guess doesn't have the guts to play the Wolves at Target Center because he's a bitch, sorry, man, I can't support him. Yes, he is talented. That's great. And I don't know if he's still dating Shakira. I don't care. I want to beat this bastard so badly tonight. I really do.
I think every Wolves fan wants to beat him, and that's why I think that there's got to be more slander for Jimmy ducking the Wolves at Target Center every time he comes here. The last time he played us, I don't know if you remember, was actually at Target Center. But he got into the dust up with Anthony Edwards, and Edwards did not back down.
I know, I remember.
And Edwards came out and said, "No one's fighting on the court. It's just for show. He ain't shit. Like and which was kind of badass. And it's like, do you think now they're in different parts of their career right now? But to me, like Anthony Edwards is what we wanted Jimmy Butler to be when he was in Minnesota, and I think we just have a younger version of him, anyways. And Butler,
except for the fact that I don't think. I mean, I don't think that Anthony Edwards has the ego. I think he has ego, but not the Jimmy Butler kind of ego that's abrasive. You know what I mean? Like I like a lot about Anthony Edwards, but there's not much about Jimmy Butler's personality outside of that. Yeah, he does back up what he says, and he is kind of a tough guy about it. And there are some things that he says that I do believe warrant him saying those things, at least back then. But now it's just like I don't have as much respect for him as I did. You know what I mean? And so if we go 1-3 in this stretch of 4 games, I hope we better fucking beat Miami tonight. You know?
We've had some good run against Miami recently, which has been nice because
we don't play well down there though.
Recently, I think we've won the last 2 or something, but
really
different teams. Yeah, don't quote me on it.
The Florida 2-step that we always have problems with. We play Miami and then we play Orlando, and
we are horrible against Orlando. Don't know why. They're a decent squad this year too, so maybe it'll play up to the competition. But yeah, you know, and the funny thing with the whole Jimmy Butler thing, and if you're not a Wolves fan, maybe you're confused at our conversation. None of this conversation would be happening if he did not play for the Wolves, and you know, if whatever happened with the Wolves never happened. But if you're unfamiliar with what happened with the Wolves, do some research, because the guy was an absolute bitch when he was here, caused a lot of issues.
He was right though on some things,
and man, it was bad. So the Wolves hate Jimmy Butler. He hates the Wolves. We want to beat him whenever we can. He likes to duck us. I think we're the better side.
Oh, and here's a surprise show to be named later, fans. Please contact us, because I have Jimmy Butler's girlfriend's phone number that I will pass out to everybody. So there you go. And that's a joke. That was based, you know where that comes from, right?
Yeah, well, he gave his phone number out to everyone at the Mall of America.
Yep. And then he did stuff with Karl Anthony Towns' girlfriend just so he could get traded. So that was the joke. Sorry, I'm feeling festive tonight. Happy Festivus to everybody. All right, so we got a tough 4-game stretch against extremely good teams. Prediction: Miami, Philadelphia, the Lakers, and Sacramento. Now, I take that back. I said if we go 1-3, man, I hope we beat Miami. But I'm going to say, no, we have to go 2-2, because we have to beat Miami and we got to beat the fucking Lakers. I hate the Lakers.
The Lakers are the one that I need to win, they have been, ever since they beat us in the play-in tournament last year, they have been going nuts on our fan base on Twitter. It has been insane, the amount of, like, look, yes, you have LeBron, they got a good squad.
Anthony Davis is a super bitch. Okay. That guy is, I can't even believe that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Stay healthy. And your championship was fake, by the way.
Yep.
And it's
don't count it.
God, I hate their fans so much. Most of them
and
are
then they get
anyways.
the in-season tournament too. Just I know, but it's
hang still, the banner.
Right. Right. Well,
so
we've got, in fact, they're the only banners we have in Target Center are the Lakers.
Absolutely. And I will, you know what? Great. But you know what? You got to put, I understand we just beat Dallas. We beat Indiana without Halliburton, but still, you got to win these games. And 19 wins, let's put some respect on it a little bit. Now, if they come out and kick our ass, I'll give you the flowers, but because we'll be at home too. So
yeah.
But for me, I think my prediction is 3-1. I do think we beat Miami. The one that I don't. Philly's playing some good ball, and we're in Philly.
Man. And Embiid is really playing good basketball right
now. That's
going
to be a tough one.
But Sacramento's going to be tough too. And I got to say, I got to be pleased with 2-2, because 3 of these games are on the road, right?
Yeah. Now Sacramento, I think the Wolves will come out with a little fire with we haven't lost to a lot of people, so like the games we lose to, we remember. And that's why I think they come out with a little, man, these guys punked us last time. Like, we're going to come out at their place and beat them this time. So,
Right.
they're the only team that's beat us at home. And unfortunately, I was there. But, why not do it to them? So 3-1 is my prediction. I'd be extremely happy with 2-2. If we go 1-3 and they beat Miami, I'll also be fine with that.
Okay. I'm going to go with 2-2. And we won't. I believe we're gonna do another podcast on Thursday night. So we'll at least have two of those games results. Okay. There was once again. Now we're gonna switch sports now, and we'll go to the Minnesota Vikings, who, many years. Well, they have their destiny is in their hands. All they have to do is do this, this, and this, and. One of the points that we made last week was about wanting this Vikings team to go on and make the playoffs was because we had this awesome fucking defense. Okay. And on Saturday, we got to the fourth quarter and we had gone 11 quarters, this defense, without giving up a touchdown. And then it fell apart. All the wheels came off. We gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter, including 3 points in overtime. You got 24 points in the last 18, 19 minutes. So disappointing. So disappointing at so many levels. And I'm not going to put it on Nick Mullins. I got texts during the game, just can't even watch it, dude. And I was like, finally I texted back in the third quarter and I said, man, he made some throws too, though, dude. And you got to give him. And yes, they were 50-50 balls that were made. Like the last touchdown he threw, I have no idea how that was a touchdown, and it should have been a turnover. But, one of the turnovers, it was stupid for him to throw the ball, but it hit the guy in the helmet and bounced into his lap. That took maybe 3 points off the board. We kept shooting ourselves in the foot, but I'll tell you, Noah, if you would have told me going in the fourth quarter that we had a 14-point lead with this defense and we were going to end up losing the game, I would have said you're nuts. And what bothered me so much about the defensive laps of these jump ball 50-50s on defensive backs who do not know how to time their jump or time it with the opposing player, Jake Browning was just throwing the ball up for grabs and completing it on 3rd and 21. And I didn't think that you would see that from this defense at all. And I was absolutely shocked. And we still should have won the game.
Still should have won the game. And you wonder, because it was 11 quarters at that point. So you were like, all right, when is the dam gonna break? Because it's also Vikings football, and
right.
Something had to happen, right? And also, though, to the defense credit, we hit overtime and they made a big stop and they put us in phenomenal.
We'll get to that in it because
great.
I'm not crediting Cincinnati with that at all. That was Minnesota Vikings going, here is the gift for Christmas. And they did it twice.
But, again, defense, we got to credit 11 quarters. It's great. But, man, 21 points in the fourth,
yep,
plus 3 in overtime. It's tough, and you knew it was going to happen. You wish it would have just been a touchdown, especially against a quarterback who apparently shouldn't have been cut by the Vikings. But
did you hear he was pissed off? Did you hear what he said?
Dude, Jake, you suck. You're not a good quarterback. You couldn't beat out Kellen Mond or Sean Mannion. Are you kidding me? Also, the Bengals cut you.
I didn't cut you. Yep. I didn't understand Mannion, our fascination with that piece of garbage. But, because apparently the Vikings, as far as backup quarterbacks, they're into waste management. And what was the other guy? Kellen Mond? Is that his name? That was a 3rd round pick. After 1 year, you have to stick to your guns and say, I'm not ready to get rid of him. We wasted a 3rd round pick on that guy. So Browning was expendable. Okay, but here's the thing: if the Vikings would have won that game in overtime like they should have, we would never have heard from fucking Jake Browning. Okay, I will give the guy credit. He's playing way better than anybody thought when Joe Burrow went down. But I agree. You couldn't beat those guys out in Minnesota, and now you're going to bitch about it? Come on, man.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I don't know. You beat a team like that. You had one good quarter. I mean, this team is obviously in a rut, struggling in different areas every game. So like the whole, again, throwing up 50-50 balls, like you're.
And there were so many of them. There were so many where he just threw it up, and I'm like, there's no way. It's our ball. Nope.
Yeah. So like, look, if you back it up the rest of the season, great. Talk your shit. But dude, come on. Like, just stop.
Well, and I think his deal was the way it went down. Apparently, I don't know if he got an email, but they didn't do it face to face, or they said, I think I heard that they said, we have a spot for you. And then that's when Mannion came in or something. And then they said, oh, we don't have a spot for you. I think he was upset about the way they handled their business. But then again, who are you, Jake Browning? Like that you should get royal treatment. I mean, I don't know. Everyone said, oh, it's a business. So, so anyways, let's move on. So I'm not going to crucify KOC the way that I'm seeing everybody. No, oh yeah, there's going to be maybe some flogging or whipping. There might be a crown of thorns placed on the head, but I don't think I'm ready to crucify yet. Okay. But because I've seen a lot of talking, people are calling for his job flat out. And I will say that the brunt of Saturday's loss was on Kevin O'Connell. Okay. It was.
Yep.
But I'm not ready to say that this is a guy who has now worked with his fourth starting quarterback this season. Okay. Now, apparently, like the Vikings still can make the playoffs. In the history of the NFL, if the Vikings make the playoffs this year, they will be the fourth team in NFL history to make the playoffs, having started 4 quarterbacks over the course of the year. And 2 of the 3 teams that did got their starting quarterback, their number 1, back in time for the playoffs, which we're not going to do. You also had injuries to Justin Jefferson. You had many defensive. Sometimes I don't even know, was Davenport, was that a dream or what? I don't,
It was a steal. He stole from us.
Yep. Jordan Hicks obviously injured. Osborne, well, who cares? Madison, who cares? But you had a lot of injuries, so I don't think that you can honestly look at this under a magnifying glass and say, well, Kevin O'Connell, I think he's doing the best he can. However, he had every chance to win that game on Saturday. And granted, the Vikings don't ever play well in Cincinnati. I believe 1992 was the last time they won in Cincinnati. I remember where I was that day. Even so, I believe we've only won once in Cincinnati in Minnesota Vikings history. Okay. But remember we were talking about him getting too fucking cute for his own good? Why are you having Justin Jefferson throw the football when you're just trying to get a guy acclimated to the starting lineup? And, it might have been the guy was open, all right, but the play didn't start up. They didn't pick up the blitz or the block, the outsider coming in, and that could have been a horrific play. And what it did was, we always talk about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Vikings have been moving the ball, and I would just think that their number 1 guy at the helm would continue to go with that kind of flow. Instead, you get cutesy, and could have been a turnover, but it also broke up the rhythm that they were doing, and I don't believe they got points on that drive.
Well, it's like it's like he's playing Madden for fun, where he just doesn't give a shit, and you're like, well, let's just fuck around and play that. Like, let's just run this play, and you're like, dude. And KOC has been, I think he's doing the absolute best he can. I do think he's a good coach and a good coach for this team. But if he would just roll with the flow and just not get cute, like how many other wins do you think we maybe have if we're not getting cute? And do you want to talk overtime? Because that play calling was
because it's funny that you brought Madden up, because once again you beat me to the punch. Everybody that knows that has played fucking Madden's game, whether it's Xbox or PlayStation, you don't call the same fucking play twice in a row. It never works out well. And the fact that not only did he call the same exact play, had the littlest guy on offense doing the tush push, right? And then, okay, let's dial it back a little bit, because like I say, I'm not gonna start pounding nails in yet, but I am going to do some whipping a little bit. How is it that Chandler is only playing because everybody else is hurt? He's the first motherfucking running back for the Vikings this year to rush for 100 yards, and it's because Cam Akers and Alexander Madison are out due to injury. Then, that being said, the first running back to rush for over 100 yards, he was bouncing off guys, he was spinning, and you don't give him the ball on 3rd and inches or 4th and inches? It made no sense.
I don't know what his deal is with Ty Chandler. Like, and no one knows. No one knows why this guy is not playing and why he is not featured more to get some of this offense going, because like you said, like he has been way better than Madison has been. Way better. I mean, Cam Akers got hurt, couldn't really see much of him, but the only other thing I can think of is he's not a good blocker in the backfield, and Madison was decent at that. So, but like you said, like this guy's he's playing well, right? And you have a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1. You ran the same
3rd
play.
and inches and 4th and inches,
and you have this. What is the thought process behind Brandon Powell running?
I don't know. Twice in a row. It made no sense. Why not put Jonny Voss to push Mullins? I think he and I are maybe about the same. No, he's a little bigger, but that didn't make any sense. And like I say, in Madden, you never call the exact same play. And if you are going to, then put fucking CJ Ham back there instead of Powell.
CJ would run right through that.
You got me all fired up again, because it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
On 4th down, would you have, now you can run whatever play, but would you have entertained just kicking the field goal and winning? It would have been 56 yards.
Yarder, I believe. It would have been a
56 yards.
56. I think that he was playing for the fact that, no, you pick the first down up and you get a little bit closer.
But at the same time,
Mr. Joseph does not kick well outdoors. Now, it was turf and not grass, but he does not kick well outdoors. And so I think you were just, and I don't think it ever crossed KOC's mind that we weren't going to get 5 inches. 5 inches. So, I thought about that too. But like I say, I don't think that it ever came in. And one thing that I thought was interesting was, I guess it was Beefle that was lobbying for a timeout, right? And so now there was controversy about, was he lobbying to get a timeout to challenge the play, or to tell KOC, what the fuck are you doing? You cannot call that exact play again. Now, apparently, Kevin Seifert said, no, it was based on the review. And apparently the referee told KOC that, no, the review is not going to go your way, so let's play ball. I don't know, man. But here's the thing about this whole thing we're talking about. I watched KOC after the game on Saturday, and then his press conference again today. And you know what? Just once in this world we live in, I want someone to take responsibility for their motherfucking actions. Okay. And what I mean by that, in a world that we live in where Criminals are not held accountable any longer. Minneapolis prosecutors are not held accountable any longer. Leaders of our country are not held accountable anymore. Students in my classroom are not held accountable. I want KOC to come out and say, you know what? I accept full responsibility. You fucked up. You trusted me. And I fucked up. And it was my fault. I'll take responsibility. And he didn't. It was all this double talk, blah, 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 blah. And I just wanted him to come out and say, you know what? I made a poor choice. I made a poor choice. And he did not.
Kirk Cousins would have said it. I mean, if he would have made that decision, like it's anyways. Yeah, it's tough with him. I do think, I think to go for his job, and now if the next 3 games though are like, if he's making these decisions for the next 3 games and we lose these crucial games, we can have that conversation. But I think he's easily the guy you roll with next year, especially with potentially Cousins coming back to Minnesota.
I'm not ready to let go of KOC yet, but I do think that he's got too much of playing Madden video games or something, or maybe it's just a younger mentality that I don't understand, but it's not smash mouth football. And I'm getting tired of the tush push. I read Suhan's column today, and he was like, it's time to get done with that play. You know what I mean? It's not football, and I guess football doesn't have to be pretty, but it's not football at all. It's ugly rugby, you know, and you've got 2 officials on either side of the line trying to understand where to spot the ball in the mixture of 20 guys laying on the field. It's just, I didn't understand either on 3rd down, giving it to Ham to just muscle through. And I guess, you know, okay, on 4th down, they were like, oh, we didn't want to call timeout and allow them to set up their goal line defense, so then we would never have gotten it. But then you think of maybe a pitch to the outside or something. I mean, I just didn't get it. And that basically, you don't want to say it comes down to one drive, but man, that should have been our game, dude. It should have been our game. And the flip side is, if we were to happen to win 3 games, Detroit still has to play Dallas at Dallas. Yep. Dallas, like I say, is terrible if they play on the road, but they're pretty good at home. So, I mean, there is still a glimmer of hope that we could still win the division. You know,
we're still the 6th seed. I mean, some teams now, a couple teams that we needed to lose. I think
LA won.
Yeah, they won.
I believe Tampa and New Orleans are tied. We hold the tiebreaker over New Orleans, who I believe holds a tiebreaker over Tampa. But if Tampa wins, I want Tampa to win the division hands down, so that if New Orleans has the same record as we do, we get in. But it's weird. Unfortunately, I don't think, you know, okay, so the Vikings announced today that Mullins will be your quarterback against the Lions, which I think is the right call, because the offense is geared behind a Kirk Cousins, Nick Mullins kind of quarterback. So, I mean, like, you know, I don't think that you can even think of Dobbs in the conversation. I think if he would have played on Saturday, it would have been 3-3 at the time the 4th quarter would have started. There would have been no shot at winning that game, I don't think, with Dobbs in. I don't think that you go to the rookie right now. So I think the scheme they have, based on a Kirk Cousins, Sean Mullins, very kind of similar, not mobile, pocket passer, hopefully makes good decisions, but he doesn't. Mullins it works or it doesn't. You're not going to get an in-between at all.
Well, and that's why I think the offense works with those types of quarterbacks, with the offensive weapons that you have, right? Like, you have some of the best receivers. I mean, you got Addison, you got Jefferson, right? Amazing duo. And you got Hawkinson, right? Like, I mean, you've got some good receivers, a good tight end to throw to. So it'll be interesting. I do think Mullins is definitely the right choice. I know a bunch of people definitely want Hall again. But again, like you said, Dobbs would have given us 3 points. We got, 21 points with Nick Mullins. I think it'll be tough, especially if Mullins struggles this week. Like you very well could see Hall, but I also would rather just I think roll with Mullins to get in the
I,
play.
I think we would see Hall if it was maybe 20 to zip at half or something. But then again, would you even want to put a rookie in a situation like that if it was a blowout, or if it was like maybe you could get back in the game, but maybe not, probably not. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think the hard part is I do want Hall to get some run only because there's a small part of me that thinks we're going to need him at some point, whether it be Mullins just sucks or because Dobbs was your third string the other day. So they wanted
it was
Hall
the
as a backup.
emergency, which meant that I think it was only what if someone got injured, that's the only way he could have played, right?
Yeah. So that's why it's like, because like I mean, if Mullins gets you to week 16 and he sucks, and then you want Hall to come in and he's going to be playing in these big games. I mean, that's going to be tough for a rookie. Yep. So if he can get some run in, I think that would be good. Now, whether it's a blowout, great. I don't know, but I don't know what situation it needs to be. Maybe throwing him in against Green Bay, whatever. But I would like him to get some run.
And I think as long as we're winning, and maybe even if we're not winning, we're having games like we did, on Saturday. I think probably Mullins runs the table for the rest of the year. I mean, maybe not. I mean, if we're knocked out of playoff contention, I think that's a great opportunity for a rookie quarterback. But there you go. So speaking of accountability, because I brought it up with KOC and didn't see that from him. I don't know if you've heard, because I just heard about it this afternoon driving home. Have you heard the scuttlebutt on Anthony Edwards?
Yes. For those of you that don't know, obviously it came out today and the other day. There was an issue with a girl that Anthony Edwards had relations with.
Internet model, right? Or is that
internet model? Yep, that's a job now.
Yeah, sure.
So she, some text messages came out that she put out. She is here to expose him with these text messages. She's pregnant, and Edwards essentially said to abort the kid, and he'll help pay.
No, he told her to get a abortion. Did you see that? Abortion. But he was pretty cavalier, nonchalant. I mean, it was, and some of the language that he used in his texts were not, I believe the first one was like, nah, that ain't going to happen. Where I don't know if it's necessarily his decision at this point. But the backlash he's getting right now is because of the things that he said. And then I think he wired her $100,000 or something like that, which obviously pay off. I think she came back and said, look, I've already had an abortion and I regret it every day of my life. And he's just like, no. And he was kind of a chotch about it, and my deal, I heard this on the Barrero show, and something that Dan Barrero said, and which I agree wholeheartedly. I'm like, it's not a good look for Anthony Edwards. And it's not a good look for him or the Wolves or anybody else, because I don't think, like, I would have thought, like, if this is a deal, you would take the time to actually call the lady instead of just texting back and forth. But just saying, I'm just going to dismiss this. And in no way are we going to get political on the topic of abortion or anything like that. But if this is, and I don't know if the woman's a gold digger and she's thinking she's getting paid, but to just demand that you get a abortion is not a good look, because it makes you seem unfeeling, uncaring. And to me, it was enough so he got enough backlash that they had to have a crisis intervention guy write his apology that made sure that they went and said all the things that were politically correct. And you could tell by the language, well, compared to his text, it wasn't Anthony Edwards that wrote that, right? And so I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, because I have my own opinions. That when this came out, it was, here's the thing. This is nothing new to the NBA. This is nothing new to a lot of NBA players out there. Have gone through this very similar thing. Um, my opinion on this is it's just like how I don't give a shit what your political beliefs are, whatever. Don't bring it into sports. I just want
Yep.
to play
Yep.
sports. It's the same thing. This is, to me, this is a private matter. This is Anthony Edwards and this girl that she brought it up for clout. I think that she had a choice to make and she decided to bring the whole thing public. I understand the clarity of it and the height of it and whatnot, but at the same time, I don't know. You knew what you were doing. If this was an average Joe, you weren't going to put these text messages out on the internet for everyone to see.
Well, who knows? We're living in a world where
And that's the thing. And it's he responded because it was made public, right? And he acknowledged it. He in the thing, he took accountability for it. But there's nothing else that I think we should be worrying about as this is something private and it's their thing. We are talking about Anthony Edwards is a sports player, and when we should talk about him in basketball, and I don't give a shit about the personal stuff that he's going on. I don't think it should have been made public. I understand. I think, yes, I'm not a huge fan of the stuff that was said from him, but at the same time, she knows what she's doing. She's here to get paid, right? And it's so both sides. It's a tough situation.
And here's my take. Like, I agree. You know what? I think that you stated that well. The only thing is that, yeah, I'm sorry, Charles Barkley. You know, he came out while he was still playing. I'm not a role model, but unfortunately, you are. Okay, and that's the only thing. And I live in a world where I have a lot of people in my life where they don't take care of their kids at all. Now, I'm not saying that about Anthony Edwards, okay? But my point on that is it's just not a good look for a role model. But, you know, to your point, no one should be talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, nobody talks about my relationships, or I won't want them talking about my relationships, or my personal dealings. And the reason they don't publicly, or it's a big deal, is because I'm not a superstar. So I will take that, and I think it was well said on your point.
Well, and to, I don't want to back Anthony Edwards up for the stuff that he said. Now, because I don't know if you noticed, I mean, that was not his girlfriend. He does have a girlfriend who also at the same time announced that she was pregnant. So I think that's why. So at the same time, that's the hard part. And I think
not a good look. Not a good look.
No, but like we said, it's private, and it's, I think for him, she told him that, we talk about, you didn't call and handle this over the phone, or whatever. I mean, like, she told him that she told him he was pregnant over a text message and, not a phone call and everything. Like, you almost wonder if she knew what she was doing.
Right.
And, at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, I don't have kids yet, but it's like, if I didn't want a kid and this was brought up, like, I probably would not react great at the same time. So,
yeah, but you got to be an idiot to know that if you don't want kids, there is incredible developments in birth control. And absolutely. So, like, you pretty much got to be an idiot to not, like, yeah, he's 21 years old, but, like, I knew at 13, and this is 1987, that there are a lot of ways to keep you from having a child. And so let me ask you this. Does it do, because I like what you said. You said, just keep that out of my sports. But does that change your opinion or your impression of a player or a hero that you have? Like Adrian Peterson, I love to death as an NFL running back. But when you got 10 kids, and remember when his kid in South Dakota died, and everyone's like, oh, that poor Adrian Peter. He never met that kid, and he wasn't paying mom off. And so you were like, he's not even a part of this story, So does that change the way that you look at these guys, watching them on a Sunday or 4 nights a week or whatever it is?
So for Anthony Edwards' case, no. I mean, there are definitely, like, I look at Josh Giddey a different way now. I look at Miles Bridges, who's also not allowed to play tonight because Canada won't let him into their country, which I think is hilarious. I look at them differently. I think, like, look, abortion is, and we won't get political, but obviously it's been a big topic, and it's been more of a common topic. And it's, the thing to me is, like, look, Anthony Edwards, it seemed like it was consensual. They were of the age, and there wasn't a rape. There wasn't stuff like,
yep.
They had a kid, right? And he said, get an abortion. Some words were said, sure. So it's still a tough situation, but at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say certain things like that, but it's like, these are things that happen. Like, these are things that happen, and it's, if he raped someone, it'd been a way different thing.
That's the thing, they brought that up on Barrero's show, was like, he didn't do anything illegal. All right. He's not going to get arrested for anything. So it's not like that, but yeah, he's 21, but this ain't the first time that his mouth has gotten him into trouble though either. Like, then he makes some homophobic slurs or something like that. I don't know if it was in texting or something, or
it was a video, and yeah.
Okay. So he does, there are some things, he's got to get smarter, because like I say, it's not a good look that you want moving forward.
No. And I think it's, like you said, he's 21, he's young. We all did dumb shit at 21 and whatnot. But I do think the older you get, the smarter he'll get with the right people around him. I think Mike Conley's the perfect guy around him to maybe kind of whip him into shape a little bit. You think about these guys that make these decisions, and then you look at kind of the guys that are on their team or in their circle, and it's, when you're not surrounding them with good players, like, or good guys necessarily, it just goes south the whole career. And I think Anthony Edwards is in a good situation, but like you said, he's got to get smarter.
Okay. All right. Well said, my man. Baseball free agency. I'm still horrified by the Ohtani deal. I did some checking, and apparently that clause has been in the collective bargaining agreement for years. It still seems unfair. I was thinking about this, and I'm like, think about if the Minnesota Twins tried something like this, they would not be able to pay back $700 million in 700 million years. Right? I mean,
yeah. It's a wild contract, and I don't know. I'm here to see how it plays out. I mean, the clip I put out was people were enjoying. I think it was one of our most watched clips, which was kind of funny. But because this is just crazy for baseball and for Ohtani. Like, he's gonna make a shit ton of money in endorsements anyways. So, but just took a big pay cut. It's just interesting technically.
But here's the deal. Like, so supposedly they're speculating that within 4 years, because of this contract or because of this signing, that the Dodgers are going to be able to make that money back within 4 years, whether they win a World Series or not. And that's what I mean. That's why I don't think it's a level playing field, because I don't think that there are teams like Milwaukee or Kansas City that could pull something like that off. You know what I mean? And think about it. Like, if you are in the city of fountains and you would say, this is what we're going to give you, Mr. Ohtani, and because you agree to this, we will get a millionaire player at every position to back you up. I still don't think that it would be a thought that would cross his mind, correct?
Well, yeah, and it's all the market. Like, it's people want to play in Los Angeles, and it's just the landscape of the sport, which kind of sucks. That's kind of why I'd like to see guys like a Giannis stay in Milwaukee, or
Right.
just some star players that are just loyal to where they go, and it makes it more fun to see teams spend
Yep.
money that you wouldn't have expected. Whatever. Kansas City. Speaking of Kansas City, though, they've been spending some money, and put a little bit of a, I don't want to say put some pressure on the Twins, but they've got a much better roster than they did last year. Do you know the moves that
Well,
they made?
no, I don't know any moves they made, but shit, they can only go up from last year, right? Like,
Well, right now, I'll list off some of the guys that they got, and I want you to tell me, because some guy on MLB Network made probably one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard. So they went out, they got Seth Lugo, who was from the Padres, who had a good year. They went out, they got Michael Wacha, who was also on the Padres.
shoot.
They just signed Hunter Renfroe.
Okay.
They got Chris Stratton, who was on the Rangers, won the World Series, or the Cardinals, Rangers. They picked up Nick Anderson, who was at one point a really good closer for the Tampa Bay Rays. What else did they got a couple other little guys here and there. Will Smith, who just won a World Series. So here's the thing. It's very, very, very cool to see, or to have your team. I live in Kansas City, so obviously I've got some friends that like the Royals, and they've watched some absolutely horrendous baseball for the last almost 10 years now. So for them, it's cool for a team to come out and say, we're going to go get starting pitching. We're going to go get help in the bullpen. We're going to go get some offensive help. And then they do it. So, yeah, you didn't go get a 4-level or a 4-star, 5-star athletes. You got good complementary pieces. And it's cool to see that, because we watched some shit Twins teams in the 2010s, and they didn't go sign anyone. It was always, we were in the mix. So, the Royals got some good guys, but at the same time, guy from MLB Network, I don't know who said it, came out and said that the Royals are the favorite for the AL Central title this year.
No.
And I think that is one of the stupidest things I have ever heard, because look, the Royals got you. They got some complimentary pieces. Michael Wacha is not leading you to a Central title.
I was going to ask you about Wacha, though, because I just got the remaining free agents, and of course, I'm still going to call it the Minneapolis Star and Tribune. That was printed this morning, and Wacha was still listed as a free agent in San Diego. So did they just sign him today?
It was the other day, but I think he probably got listed because the deal isn't final yet. I mean, they've agreed to a deal.
Okay.
But at the same time, like, here's the thing with the Royals is, for everyone that maybe was worried about the Royals making moves, they're trying to speed up the timeline for sure. However, this team has absolutely no depth, and everyone they signed all has injury history. So when those guys eventually go down, no one's going to be able to really replace these guys. I think they're a third-place finish team. I think the only team that's going to give us some trouble in the Central this year is going to be Detroit, who I think is kind of on the up and up a little bit.
Okay.
But to me, like, this is still, without having made a move, without having, with losing Kenta and losing Sonny Gray, this is the Twins division to lose at this point.
So we're speaking of free agency, and there were some guys, as I look now, I haven't been keeping up on Major League Baseball. I should be watching MLB Network to see who's being signed. Wacha was one of the guys I was going to ask you about, where I thought, in Wacha, being a Cardinals fan, Wacha was great, but he is past his prime for sure. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that he is still
he's good.
He's a good pitcher. So Wacha obviously off the table, but I'm gonna throw some pitchers, because it's mostly pitchers that I was looking at. I wanted to get into perhaps outfielders, but I didn't see anything. And you had talked about a Tampa Bay player that I would love in our outfield. But let's start right off the bat, though. The one that I was really, I guess, Lucas Giolito. He's in Cleveland. He's a free agent. I would actually covet him in the Twins lineup. I know he did not have an incredible year. Seems like the Twins always have his number when we play him, but that was one guy that I was really intrigued. And shit, if you're just going to be in the American League Central, why not just go north?
Yeah, Giolito was an interesting guy. I think his last year turned me off a little bit.
Right.
And he's always been a little bit, I don't want to say unorthodox, but his motions a little funky. But I do think he's got some left in the tank. He was obviously really good the past couple of years. I think he's a guy that replaces a Kenta Maeda type of thing. I think you can kind of sign him maybe a 1-year deal with a club option or something. Because I don't think you need to break the bank. But I think out of the free agent pitchers that we can afford, I think Giolito is one of the top guys out there.
Okay, so you being a Paris on the Plains resident, it just seemed obviously not the same pitcher anymore, but to me he's still intriguing as far as a veteran crazy man. What about Zach Greinke?
See, we're looking at like,
I'm talking about to fill the 5th spot in the rotation.
Yes.
And you're talking about a veteran pitcher that may or may not be able to do that.
I think Greinke is interesting. Personally, I think last year was Greinke's. I thought that should have been it for him.
Yeah.
I think there are some other vets I would rather go after. More so, I think Giolito is a good 5. Anyone else? I mean, you can list off a couple other guys. I have a couple guys on my trade list. I think that the Twins will do more trading than signing, but I'm curious who else you got on that list.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing that with the Ohtani deal, if Kershaw is going to pitch again, he's going to pitch in LA, right? And
he's not going anywhere else.
Right. Okay. So obviously that was there were a couple others that I was just Luke Weaver was one, and I don't know. No, okay. Forget that.
Well, you know him from the Cardinals days, right?
Yeah.
And he's been kind of
Right. Okay. All right. I know this is a long shot as well, but I just always liked him, and I would have liked him 5 years ago. But Michael Stroman.
Yeah, Stroman's interesting because I think so. Here's what we're trying to do is you're trying to replace Kenta Maeda. You're trying to replace Sonny Gray.
Right.
Do I think Stroman replaces Sonny Gray? No. I liked him 5 years ago. I don't know exactly what he has in the tank.
I don't think he's got a lot, but we've always been patchworking guys like that. Sidney Ponson, what the fuck? Okay, so like I say, if you're gonna get a guy like Big Sexy at 49 years old or whatever, Stroman looks like an upgrade compared to some of the guys that they brought in late in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, when you sign Stroman, though, I think in Stroman's mind, he is a 2, and you're going to pay him like a 2.
Do
and
you think that he still thinks of himself as a 2 in a really?
Oh yeah, 2 or a 3, and that's the thing. We've got when you've got Joe Ryan, Pablo, Chris Paddock, you've got Bailey Ober. I personally like Varland pitching as a starter. I would like him out of the pen just to have him as a crazy weapon out there with Duran and Jax. But so that's why I think the free agent market is tough, and we're gonna go for some trades. And I'll throw a couple guys out there because to me you're replacing a 5 and a 2.
Right.
And well, I guess Sonny.
But you wouldn't count Joe Ryan as a 2, huh?
To me, Joe, with how he finished the year, no.
Remember, that's because he chose to not talk about his injury And I'm still I like Joe Ryan, man.
I love Joe. Love Joe. I think he's year 2 right now. I think it would be great to push him to number 3. I mean, how great would it be to have Joe Ryan as your number 3, Bailey as your 4, Chris Paddock as your 5? Well, it depends. If you want Paddock to come out of the bullpen, I know they want him to start, but to me, a guy that will come in, be a vet, and eat innings. He's had some rough years out in D.C., but Patrick Corbin had a pretty nice bounce back year last year. He's making a lot of money. I think it's his final year of his deal. He's making $23 million. The Nationals will definitely eat all of that to get someone in return. He would be a nice 5. The other guy that I want, it's going to be very hard, I think, to go get him, is Logan Gilbert from Seattle.
Well, you were talking about him a few weeks ago that was a done deal. And like I saw Glass now, of course, got eaten up. Did you see that? And who took him?
Yeah, the Dodgers are just going to buy their way.
Of course.
So Gilbert, I don't know if how available he is. It would definitely take some prospects and Jorge Polanco. So it would be tougher, but he gives you, like, at this point in his career, it's like you're getting a better Joe Ryan, right? Like, he's young, controllable, and he's really good. So he would be a guy. The other one I thought of, to me, like, when you're going out after a star pitcher at this point in the year and it's a rental, that's where I get nervous. Corbin Burns with Milwaukee, to get him, because he's been on the block. But he's on the last year of his deal too. So unless you could get him for an extension, great. But that's where to me, that's where I think we're going. There's a couple other Seattle pitchers I think we can look at, but at the same time, they're young guys, and it's like, why would you not just give a Louis Varland that chance? Because you're essentially trading for a Louis Varland at that point.
What about Blake Snell?
Snell's going to require some money.
I know, but you know what? I mean, you do have to spend. Wasn't that evident last year? You do have to motherfucking spend money to win games in the major leagues. And I'm not talking about Yankee type money or now Dodger blue kind of money. I'm talking about getting the right pieces in place. And if you have to spend a few bucks, hey man, like you do to get the good looking chick, you might have to spend a little money.
Yeah. So Snell's interesting. His walk rate is he was the weirdest Cy Young winner to me, just with his other numbers, with the walk rate, the strikeout rate was just interesting. Snell puts guys on base. And that's what I think worries me a little bit, is even with his Cy Young in Tampa, he had some kind of just mediocre years, had a Cy Young, then mediocre years with Tampa and with San Diego, and then the Cy Young again. So I don't know what you're going to get out of Snell. He might eat up some innings. I don't know if he's a Sonny Gray replacement, but it'll be interesting to see.
You might not get a Sonny Gray replacement. You know what I mean? And so and you never know. I mean, Ober might be that guy next year. You just never know, and that's a crapshoot. But shoot, man, I'd rather take a chance on someone like that than Mike Pelfrey. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And at the end of the day, I think, and we'll wrap it up here because the Wolves play here in a minute. But
okay.
But at the end of the day, I think this is still one of our better rotations we've ever had. Still, sure. Even after losing Sonny, the one guy I'm praying that the Twins go out and give me Randy Arozarena from Tampa Bay, put him in this lineup, and man.
And I don't want Tommy fucking Pham. I don't want him. I not right now. Okay, quickly. Relievers. Jordan Montgomery.
Well, he's a starter.
Oh, that's right. I'm
he's really good.
I say St. Louis, then New York. Yeah, okay. What about Montgomery?
Again, if they're willing to spend money, hell yeah, give me Jordan Montgomery.
Okay.
Big time.
Okay. Hold on now. I got the one that Brent Suter.
He was a guy I wanted the Twins to go trade for at the deadline for some bullpen help, because he was with Colorado, I believe.
Right.
And he had a great year, Now the hard part is he's a lefty, and you already got two pretty good lefties in Thielbar and Funderburk. So that would be interesting.
Okay.
But that's why I want them to move Varland to the pen to get you a multi-inning just flamethrower out of the pen. So you could go 6, 7, 8, 9, Varland, Brock Stewart, Griffin Jacks, Yohan Duran. I mean, that's tough. That's
Okay. What about Carlos Carrasco? Carrasco, is he past his prime?
I think he'll still give you some good innings out of the pen. I don't know if he's really a starter. He was kind of a swingman for the Mets, but I would take him as a reliever.
Okay. Finally, got to touch upon it. There are some position players available. We talked about the outfield. Would you take a chance on someone like Harrison Bader?
He's interesting.
The master Bader.
Not a great year last year for him. But I do think he offers you a nice, like if he's like your Michael Taylor kind of replacement, I think that would be nice. I'm of the opinion to just give me Michael Taylor again.
I know that, and but they're not going to do it. But you would probably get him at a bargain again, right? Like, because
with the numbers he put up, though, I mean,
do you think that there are are there a lot of teams that are knocking on the door to sign Michael A. Taylor? I mean, not a team like the Oakland Athletics where you just go, or I'm sorry, the Las Vegas Athletics, that you would just go, you know what, at this point in my career, not going to do it. You know what I mean? I would be okay with Taylor, but that brings me to another point then. Would you even look at guys like Brandon Belt, Matt Chapman, Joey Votto? Like, you understand where I'm going with that. I'm not saying that these guys are going to go, oh, we're going to give you a championship because I never had it in Cincinnati. I'm saying that these are veteran guys that you could go, you can find a place for them. Would you, if you were Noah Stoerzinger, would you even entertain that idea of guys like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we saw last year is the vets help you out in ways that are indescribable. I think Kyle Farmer's one. Donovan Solano just gave you a lot of nice at bats.
But they're not looking to re-sign him either, right?
I don't think so. Joey Gallo, Joey Gallo, but so I think you can definitely find spots for him, and there's always going to be injuries, so you need to have some depth, and that's what the Twins had. So yeah, absolutely, sign me up.
Who's available? Eduardo Escobar.
I would take him in a heartbeat.
The nicest man to ever wear Antonio Oliva is probably the nicest. Eduardo Escobar, by hands down, one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life, dude. And that, if you ask anybody, but he can still play ball too. So, okay, last thing. Are you concerned right now that the Twins haven't made any kind of play or pitch for anybody as of yet?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned, more I don't know yet. I don't know, because you see all these teams making moves in your division. And I don't know. Like, I think what they're trying to do is obviously wait it out, and they do that all the time. But I wouldn't say I'm worried quite yet. More curious to see how it all works out, and if they waited too long to get something going, because they do have a lot of holes that they need to patch. So, right. It's almost January. Like you gotta start it up. So
exactly. All right. Well, I guess we'll hurry up and wait when it comes to what the Twins are going to do free agent wise. My Cardinals have not done anything of any importance. I think they should get rid of their manager, but
you got Sonny Gray though. I mean, and Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn.
Kyle, man, come on. Yeah, that's great. Seen that movie once, twice, 3 times. Great, good. I think they got to get rid of their manager, though. Anyways, I think that's about, yeah, I'm about ready to watch some Wolves basketball. And, even with, Jimmy and misunderstandings don't work very well. Jimmy and misunderstandings kind of clash. So I'm hoping there's a lot of misunderstandings tonight. Wolves Heat coming up. And, as Kevin McHale once said, when we went down there and played Miami, the heat really never bothered us. It was the humidity. So for Noah Stoerzinger, I'm Jonny Voss. You've been watching the Show to Be Named Later podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.